Hello everyone, welcome along to today's webinar. My name is Mairead and I am based in the west of Ireland. And I've been with the TEFL Academy since 2015, but I've actually been involved in the world of TEFL since 2004-ish, so over 20 years now. So hopefully I will have lots of experience and lots of advice to give to you all tuning in today. I am super excited about today's webinar because it is a topic that can be genuinely confusing for new teachers and indeed not so new teachers. It has its moments for teachers of all levels of experience, and that is the IPA chart. Now, if you have just started the course, like if you haven't reached the pronunciation unit yet, you may not know what the IPA chart is. So let's start this webinar by giving a brief explanation of what I mean when I say IPA chart. So the IPA chart, IPA stands for International Phonetic Alphabet. Okay, it is also very commonly called the phonetic chart. So whether you hear people talking about the IPA chart or the phonetic chart, they mean the same thing. The IPA chart is a representation of all 44 sounds or phonemes in the English language. Can you believe it? There are 44, believe it or believe it not. We're going to see them all later. Now, I will probably use the word sound, okay, but the technical word for an individual sound in English is phoneme. So again, whether you call it a sound or a phoneme, it means exactly the same thing. Now, one really important thing to bear in mind about the IPA chart is that it is based on a very specific accent called received pronunciation, or RP for short. Received pronunciation is the basis for the IPA. If you're not sure what received pronunciation accent is, picture the King of England or the King of the UK speaking, okay? See if you can hear that accent in your head of the King and the Queen and Prince William and Prince Harry speaking. That is RP. It can also be called the BBC accent, because back in the day, the news readers on the BBC had, again, this very, very crystal clear RP accent. So that is received pronunciation, and that is what the IPA is based on. As a result, the IPA is not always representative of all accents. For example, you can hear from my accent, I do not speak with a received pronunciation accent because I'm from Ireland. We just don't have that accent. It's completely different. So the IPA chart doesn't always correspond to how I naturally say things, but that's okay. All right. There is no suggestion that you need to change your accent to fit the IPA. You do not. You absolutely do not. But there are some commonalities there, and we can definitely exploit those. So again, don't worry if you do not have the received pronunciation accent. Very few people do nowadays. But we can still use the IPA no matter what our natural accent is. So why is the IPA chart important? Well, lots of reasons. The main reason for me is that it standardizes pronunciation. You all know that spelling in English is not always an accurate indication of how a word is pronounced. English has a ton of strange letter combinations. It has a ton of silent letters. You know, just looking at how a word is spelled is not indicative of how it's pronounced. Okay. The IPA chart appears in most course books. Okay, so if you're working for a language school and all of your students have a textbook, the IPA will be in there. So it's good for you as the teacher to be familiar with it, just in case they spring some questions on you about it. Aside from that, the IPA chart is super, super useful for focusing on our students' individual problem sounds. You will see that students from different countries with different first languages will all have sounds that they find difficult in English. Maybe because that sound is different or that sound doesn't exist. For example, when I teach learners from Arab countries, they always have problems with B and P, okay? Because in their language, they are one sound. They are the same sound, whereas in English, they're two, okay? Or when I teach Spanish students, they often have problems with B and V because, again, in Spanish, those two letters, let's say, are pronounced the same, okay? But in English, they're not. They're different. I've taught a lot of students from Asian countries, and they can struggle a lot with pronunciation because they don't have as many phonemes or as many sounds. So they're coming to English and having to learn a whole new set of sounds. So you can imagine pronunciation can be tricky for students from all countries of all levels. So the IPA is very, very useful for labeling those problems. Like you can say, okay, my student has a problem with B and P. Okay, let me find some activities to help them. Being able to isolate the problem sound or the problem sounds, it gives you a lot of clarity as to how to fix it. Also, one of my very favorite things about the IPA is that it is used in dictionaries to help us with the pronunciation of words. Just because we are English teachers, that doesn't mean that we automatically know how to pronounce every word in the world. Just last year-ish, I discovered that I had been pronouncing a word wrong my entire life. And that word is segue, S-E-G-U-E. So I thought a Segway was just that cool thing like a motorized scooter. And I thought that the word spelt S-E-G-U-E was pronounced Sieg. Oh, the shame. But eventually I looked it up in the dictionary, and to my horror at myself, I realized it was Segway, just like the motorized scooter. So if there is any word that you are unsure about as an English teacher, look it up in the dictionary, check out the IPA. That will tell you how to pronounce the word. Don't be me and my mispronouncing segue my entire life. Until now. Now I get it right. So there are just some reasons why the IPA is genuinely important and genuinely useful. Okay. Don't think of it as some abstract thing that you learn once and never think about again. Like, it is very, very practical. So now we've seen what the IPA chart is and why it's useful. Let's address the next logical concern. What does it look like? Well, you can see an example on the slide in front of you. It can look pretty weird. I'm not going to lie. Some of the symbols look like actual letters. Some look like Greek symbols. Some look like things we have never seen before. And, welcome to the world of the IPA. That is just what it is. The really important thing to remember about these symbols is that they are not letters, okay? The IPA chart does not have letters. It has sounds and it has phonemes. So even though some of the symbols may look like letters, in this context, they are not letters, okay? They are sounds. And as we said, there are 44 of them in total. So you can see on my chart that the IPA is divided into three main sections. We have in yellow, outlined in yellow, the monophthong vowels. Okay, you can see them there in the yellow box. There are 12 of them. Mono here means one. Okay, so basically they are just one symbol. Some of them have other stuff after them, but essentially they are one symbol. We can see then in orange, we have the diphthong vowels. In this case, di or di means two, because you can see in the orange section, all of the sounds have two symbols, okay, that come together to make one sound. So we have the monophthong, one symbol, the diphthongs, two coming together, and then we have the largest section outlined in red, which is the consonant section. Okay, and there are tons of consonants. We will never be short of them in English. So they are the three main sections you can expect to see. Every chart, may not be color coded like mine is, or they may not be separated into these three sections, but there will always be these three separate bits. Okay, the monophthong vowels, the diphthong vowels, and the consonants. All right. So let's go section by section and see if we can clarify all of this for you. Let's start with the monophthong vowels. Okay, you can see all of them have one main symbol, but some of them have dots or triangles after them. Well, this is because the monophthong vowels are divided into two categories. We have our short vowels, which are the ones with no dots or no triangles, okay? And we have the long vowels. These are the ones with the two dots or triangles after them, okay? So the short ones, no dots. The long ones, dots. All right. So let's take a run through this section, okay? You can see each square has a symbol, and underneath there is a word with a part of it underlined. That is the sound that the symbol corresponds to. For example, if we start at the first one, it looks like an I with the two dots. This sound is E, okay, like C, okay, E. The two dots make it long, right? So E, nice lengthy vowel. We like it. E. The next one is I, like his, okay, I. You can see it's nice and short, okay. The next one, the word is put, so the vowel is okay, You can feel it right down here, The next one, we have the example word to, so the sound is oo. Again, we have the dots, so it's nice and long, oo. Okay, moving to the second line, we have 10. So this is the phoneme eh. Okay, 10, eh. It doesn't have any dots, so it's nice and short, eh. The next symbol, this actually has its own name. We call it a schwa. What is with this terminology? I have no idea. But we call this upside down E type thing a schwa. And that is okay, ago, 10 years ago. Yeah. So is like, it's a vowel, but it's not stressed. Okay. It's just a weak vowel sound. The next one, our example word is her. Now, think about the King of England. How would he say this word? He would say her, okay. So for the King of England, in received pronunciation, the sound would be For me, in my Irish accent, the sound would be okay, because in the Irish accent, we pronounce our R's pretty heavily. So RP, Irish, and for you, it is however you would pronounce it in your accent. The next one, the example word is saw. So the sound is aw. Yeah, aw, saw. So it's like aw, you're really opening your mouth and putting it out there. Aw. Moving to the bottom line, our example word is hat. So the sound is ah. Okay, ah. Just very short vowel ah. The next one, but. So with this one, it's coming from further up in your mouth. It's like coming from up here. It sounds like a very light sound. I always think of it as like an arrow pointing up, because up, yeah, up. It's coming from far up in your mouth. The next one, I would say car. An RP, received pronunciation, accented person might say ka. So they would say ah, but I would say r, because again, of the Irish need to pronounce every R that has ever existed. And then the final word is hot. So the sound is ah. Okay, ah, hot. So I'm going to read these sounds again. I'm just going to start on the top line and read them all the way to the bottom. Okay, so listen carefully. Don't worry if you can't hear a major distinction yet. As always, this video will be posted on our YouTube channel and you can go back and listen to it if you need to. So let's go. I'm going to start reading the sounds. E, oo, o, ah. Okay. So they would be the RP ones, the official phonemes. But again, I would change some of them in my Irish accent. For example, and r. All right. And that's fine. We do not need to change our accents by any means. That's what I mean when I say it corresponds to a lot of some accents, but it doesn't correspond to everything in every accent. Okay, so be aware of it, but don't feel the need to conform and change to represent it. All right, let's move to the diphthong vowels. As we said, di here is meaning two. It is basically when two sounds merge to make a new one. Okay, now for the diphthongs, in my Irish accent, I say a lot of them quite differently. But to begin with, let's just run through how the RP pronunciation of the diphthongs would be. I'm going to channel my inner king and I'm going to think, how would the king say this? So the first word, ia. Yeah, ia. So the diphthong here is ia. Okay. The next one, say, a. Okay. The next one, I believe the king would say pure. Yeah, ua. Like that. See, it's like two sounds, but coming together, ua. The next one, boy, oi. The next one, I believe the king would say so. Yeah, so. So this diphthong would be o. Moving to the last line, air. Yeah, air. The next one, by, I. And the final one, ow. Yeah, now, ow. Okay. So if I were saying this in my accent, see the first one there, ear. Yeah, remember what I said about that Irish accent and the R? I would pronounce this as ear. Okay, I'd stick that R at the end. See the one below that? I would say pure. So again, ur. Again, I'm putting in that R. What about the one directly under that? I would say air. again, I'm sticking in the R, okay, air. So let me read through them nice and quickly, just so you can hear them in their original RP sound, but bearing in mind that you can change it according to your accent, as I do. The sounds are ia, a, ua, oi, o, ea, I, ow. Okay, so they are the diphthongs. All right, very nice. You will see that the diphthongs do not have dots or triangles, okay? They only go with the monophthong ones. All right, so they are the vowels, lots of vowels, but also lots of consonants. So let's take a look at the consonant section. This is the largest section of the IPA chart, and honestly, it's the most compatible with what is going on in other languages. For example, I cannot think of any of these sounds that I would say differently in my accent, or they are not different to the consonant sounds that we would hear in other English as a first language accents. So let's run through them super quickly. I'm going to stop at the top line. I'm not going to read the example words because it'll take too long. So I'm just going to run through them and you can hear what each one corresponds to. Okay, bearing in mind, these are not letters anymore in this context. They are sounds. Okay, first one. P, B, T, D, Ch, J, K, G. All right, moving to the second line. F, V, Th, The, S, Z, Sh, J. Okay. Whoops. I forgot my tablet was on the chair beside me. Apologies for the notification. Moving on to the final line. Mm, 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 w, y. All right. So let's do that again because I know at first it can be difficult to follow along with them. So again, I'm going to start on the top line and I'm going to read all the way through all of the consonant sounds. If you want to come back at a later date and listen to this, again, this webinar will be online, so you can dip back in anytime you want. Okay, let's go again. P, B, T, D, Ch, J, K, G, F, V, Th, The, S, Z, Sh, J, M, N, Ng, H, L, W, Y. All right, good. So again, for the third time, or maybe the fourth or fifth at this stage, let me remind you that in the context of the IPA, these are not letters, these are sounds, okay? So if we take the first one, we see the word is pen. So the letter is P, but the sound is P, okay? Just like a puff of air. P. All right, so there we have the consonants, okay? Lots of them. And they tend to be pretty standard. Like there doesn't tend to be a huge variation across accents with these. Unless, of course, your student is coming from a country in which these sounds do not exist. Then, of course, you will need to teach them from scratch. So, staying with the consonants, there are two very important terms that you will hear used all the time when it comes to pronunciation of consonants. And those two sounds are, or those two words are, voiced or unvoiced. Okay. Or sometimes you may hear them called voiced or voiceless. Okay, so unvoiced, voiceless, same things, just two terms for the same thing. So let's take a look, because this is really important to understand. If a consonant is voiced, you can feel your vocal cords or your voice box right here where my fingers are vibrating when you say it. Okay, so if it is voiced, your vocal cords are doing all of the work. So let's try. I want you to take two fingers, put them on your voice box, just where you feel the bump in your throat. So try saying this sound with me. B, b. Okay, next one. D, d. Next one. G, g, g. So hopefully, when you say those sounds, you should be feeling all sorts of vibration, all sorts of movement going on in your voice box, down in your throat. So try them again. B, d, g. So hopefully you are feeling the vibrations against your fingers. That is because your vocal cords are moving and producing the sound. However, if a consonant is unvoiced or voiceless, your vocal cords don't do anything when you say it. Okay, it is unvoiced, no vocal cords. Everything is happening with air at the top of your mouth. Okay, it's not happening down here. It's happening up here with air. So again, take your two fingers, put them on your throat, on your voice box, and try saying p, t, k. So there's nothing happening, right? There is zero vibration happening in the vocal cords. And that is because these sounds are unvoiced. They're coming just from air at the top of your mouth. Okay? So, it makes sense, doesn't it? Voiced, coming from the vocal cords. Unvoiced, not coming from the vocal cords. So it's really important. Remember before I was telling you about my students from Arab countries who get confused with their B's and their P's? When I teach them about voiced and unvoiced, it is a total game changer for them. Okay, like it changes everything, because suddenly they have a way of physically feeling if they are saying the sound correctly or not. Okay, so b, 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 loads of vibration, p, 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 nothing. Okay, so when they feel the vibration, they know that they are saying b. When they don't feel it, they know that they are now pronouncing p correctly. Okay, and I'm just using my Arab students as an example here. This works for for students of all nationalities who have some sort of problem consonant. Okay, like the b and the v. Yeah, any problem consonants, you can jump in and explain. You should feel it vibrating, or you shouldn't feel it vibrating. Okay, this distinction is really, really important for accurate pronunciation, and it can help your students a lot. Okay, and it can also help you, like if a student ambushes you with a question like, oh, is whatever consonant voiced or unvoiced, you can say, oh, let's try, let's say it and figure it out. Okay, so it also gives you a technique to know just by doing. Yeah, you just say the sound and you will know if the consonant is voiced or unvoiced. Okay, so yeah, be familiar with those terms. Again, don't worry if it's confusing. It always is at the beginning. Come back and watch this webinar when you have studied the unit on pronunciation, and hopefully it will make a lot more sense. Okay, so Let's look at some more important information about the IPA. Okay, some more info that will help you. As I have said now very, very many times, in the context of the IPA, some of the symbols look like letters, but they are not letters. They are sounds. So to distinguish between a sound and a letter, we typically put individual phonemes in slanted brackets to distinguish them from letters. For example, if I was talking to you about the sound P, I would put it in the slanted brackets. And that way, you know I'm talking about the sound P and not the letter P. Okay. As an extension of that, we put transcribed words. So transcribed here means when we put speech into IPA symbols. Okay, so if we want to write a word in IPA to show how it's pronounced, we use the term transcribe. So we put transcribed words, phrases, or sentences in slanted brackets too. Okay, for example, take a look at this word. I'll give you a moment to figure out what it is. Can you type what you think this word is in the chat box? I'll give you a few seconds to figure it out. Nobody is daring to venture a guess yet. Ah, here we go. Loads of guesses together. Yes, you are all correct. The word is hello. Yeah, hello. Nice. Good work, everyone. You got it. Perfect. So here, because it's a whole word, we just put a bracket at the beginning and a bracket at the end. Like there's no need to do all of the individual sounds. That would be far too many brackets. And again, if it's a full sentence, again, you would put the whole transcribed sentence in between the slanted brackets. It may seem like a small detail, but actually it's super important that you remember the brackets because that is what sets IPA transcription apart. Another thing I love about the IPA that is so incredibly useful is that it also gives us information on syllable stress. Now, I know that you deal with this a lot in the online course, and in level 5 assignment A, you are asked to identify syllable stress. So the IPA is like your best friend in this scenario. Look at the word again, hello, as it's transcribed. Do you see the apostrophe-like symbol in the middle? So that apostrophe always goes before the stress syllable. Okay, it goes directly before. So we now know with certainty that the second syllable is stressed. Yeah, we say hello. Yeah, hello. Very strong emphasis on the second syllable. So if you have a word that you are not sure about, if you're not sure where the syllable stress goes, look it up in the dictionary. Look at the IPA transcription, find the apostrophe in the word, and you will know with certainty that the syllable directly after that is stressed. So it's unbelievably useful when it comes to working out syllable stress. All right. And then one final word of advice and reassurance for you. Please do not feel pressured into transcribing entire words and phrases for your students, okay? Don't feel like this is something you need to do all the time, okay? I know when I started teaching, I assumed I would have to transcribe everything and I just got so stressed about it, but actually, no. That was not the case at all. So don't feel pressured about transcribing entire words and phrases. It's actually a lot more common to just transcribe isolated sounds. Like if there is a sound your students are struggling with, you might transcribe that one. For example, take the letter C. We have a word beginning with C, which is center. We also have a word beginning with C, which is cat. So both are the letter C. So your students might assume that they are both pronounced the same. They might say center, sat, or cat, kenter. But we all know English is not that straightforward. So if I get some confusion with the letter C in its pronunciation, I might just break out the two phonemes for S and K. Yeah. I might just do those. Okay. And I might not use any other ones in the entire class. Okay. So, you do not need to transcribe everything all the time. Just use it as and when it's useful. Let's look at another example. Think about the letter G. So we have the word G in general, yeah, but we also have the letter G in garden. So same letter, two different sounds. So if my students are struggling with that, I might just break out my phonemes for J as in general and G as in green. Okay, and I might do nothing else. Okay, IPA related in that class. Now, there are classes that you might do more transcribing for sure. Okay, but the main message I want to get across to you is that I do not want you to stress about this. Just start using it very gradually as and when it's needed. You will never need to go to class and teach all 44 sounds at once. That would never happen. So you're just using it as and when it's appropriate. And honestly, you will be amazed at how quickly you will grasp it. Like, say, over the course of your first year of teaching, just by using symbols as and when, you will build up your own knowledge of them. It's just a constant process of learning more and more and more. And before you know it, you don't have to look at the chart anymore. It's just coming to you automatically for some sounds. And if you need to look at the chart, look at the chart. That's why it's there. Okay, you're not expected to memorize the whole thing and be able to reproduce it perfectly. Absolutely not. Practice makes perfect when it comes to the IPA. Just don't be afraid of it. Like, it is genuinely useful. I promise. I could not teach without it anymore. Okay, so that is an introduction to the IPA. I wonder if you have any questions. I'm sure you do. If you have any questions, like pronunciation related, please pop them in the chat box. While you're thinking of your questions, I'm going to go back to the beginning of your comments and see where you all are, because I do love to see where you are all tuning in from. It just reminds me of the entirely international flavor of TEFL. It reminds me why I love this job. So we have Gloria in Afghanistan. Oh, you are so welcome, Gloria. Thank you for tuning into our webinar. And we have Mar in Canada. Lovely. Eloisa in Switzerland. We have Moncia in Budapest. Oh, how amazing. I've always wanted to visit. We have Felice or Felice in Florida. How wonderful. Very, very, very welcome in Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh, nice. I'm thinking about the USA a lot these days because I'm watching the series Quarterback on Netflix. Now, I don't know much about American football, but I am fascinated by sports documentaries. So I'm becoming a bit obsessed with trying to remember what team is in what city. So yay, USA. So we have Nelly in Armenia. We have Blessed or Blessed, what a beautiful name, from South Africa. Lucia, I hope you got the echo sorted. We have Noaneka in Nigeria. Oh, you are so welcome. My family spent a lot of time in Nigeria, so I'm always happy to see Nigeria represented. So Gloria, K and G too in Arab countries. Yeah, again, so many sounds that just do not correspond. Like it's a lot to have to get your head around from scratch. So Errol in Cape Town, you are very, very welcome. Okay, Gloria, there is no ch sound in Arabic. Oh, another one. Oh, man, it's tough. Okay, so Mar, no dots beside the long vowel diphthongs. No, we would use dots, Mar, for the monophthongs to indicate long or short vowel. They don't typically go with diphthongs. All right. So, Mard, so a forward slash is called a bracket in IPA. I just call them slanted brackets. They're not like the regular curly brackets. The proper name for them escapes me at the moment. But yeah, just the slanted. I guess you could say forward slash transcription forward slash, but yeah, slanted brackets tends to be the term we use. Okay. And Trakelina, in the example of the phoneme general, wouldn't it be more confusing putting that there for them to understand? Does it mean you would have to teach them the chart first? It was confusing for me. Yeah, so normally your students would encounter the g sound first, okay, like green, garden, go. Yeah, so typically they would encounter that one first. But, we can't keep them from the j words forever. Like they are going to encounter words like general, generous, gentle. So as those words crop up, like say the first time students encounter a j, like generous or gentle, their instinct will be to pronounce the word as gentle or generous. So that is the ideal time for you to just pop in and say, oh, okay, I see the letter G, but listen to the sound, j, gentle, okay? And then I might say, okay, in the word green, it's g, and I might write up the symbol for g, but here it's j, this is the symbol for j. So, that is how I would introduce it. It doesn't need to be like a big production, like a big explanation of the chart and everything. Like you just need to focus on the sounds you need to focus on in that moment as the sounds come up in class. Does that make sense? Let me know in the chat box if that answers your question. Okay. All right, Hanu, in the first slide, there are 2 mistakes, I think, in the underlined letters. Whoops. I will definitely go back and check that out, Hanu, and see if I can find the mistakes. If we have time at the end, we can go back and find them together. So thank you, Hanu from Finland. So we have Sharifa in Cape Town. You are very welcome. So Gloria, the sound is not stressed anywhere and anytime. Yes. Well, it's very often silent, like honest. So think about the word honest. The first syllable is stressed, and the H is in the first syllable, but it's silent. So yeah, if it's silent, it might be in a stressed syllable, but we won't hear it. But yeah, H is an interesting one. Honest, our, etc. So yeah, it could definitely be in a stressed syllable though, but yeah, not necessarily heard. All right, we have Aisel in Zimbabwe. Lovely. So Felice or Felice. Interesting that a typical American accent pronounces our R's like the Irish. Yes, you do. Woo! R pronouncers represent. I love to hear it. And in the Scottish accent too. In the Scottish accent, the R is very, very strong too. So yeah, it's just different, isn't it? It's not right, it's not wrong. It's just the glory of accents. I absolutely love accents. They're endlessly fascinating. Okay, we have Lynn in South Africa. You are so welcome, Lynn. Abby, in transcribed sentences, is there a space between each word? No, Abby, just all runs along together. Okay, no spaces. Even if it's a long sentence, yeah, everything will just run together. Okay, so yeah, they don't follow like punctuation conventions like a written sentence would. Okay, Jacqueline, thank you so much. When I did this in the course, it was confusing. Yeah, that's everybody's reaction. But you've explained it so wonderfully. Oh, I am so glad, Jacqueline. Cast your mind back and think about the other confusing pronunciation things because you can ask me right now. I love talking about pronunciation. It's one of my very favorite things, even though it did scare me at the beginning. I'm not going to lie. I did find it daunting, but I don't know. The more you do it, it just kind of gets addictive or something. You learn to love it. It's fascinating, like genuinely. All right. So Feliz, the word happy, the is stressed. Happy, happy. Yeah, look, hap. The first syllable is stressed and we can hear the h. So yeah, nice. I guess the thing to bear in mind, Gloria, your original question, is that, when we're talking about syllable stress, we're talking about the whole syllable. Like we're not just talking about an individual letter or an individual phoneme in this case. So for example, honest, the first syllable is stressed, but we don't hear the H, but it is in the stressed syllable. And here with happy, like Felice has told us, the syllable is hap. Yeah. The first syllable is stressed and we can hear the H. Yeah. Nice. That's a great example, Felice. Thank you. And Abby, you are so welcome from Australia. Oh, Abby, you are literally the other side of the world. We could not be further apart. Abby, do you tend to pronounce your R's in Australia? I'm just trying to hear an Australian accent in my head. Like if you were saying the word car, would you have a very strong at the end of it? Or air or hair? For some reason, I just cannot hear an Australian accent in my head right now. I need to turn on Neighbours or Home and Away. So Abby, no R. Okay. And that's fine. That's the glory of accents. Okay. So Felice, would you put an apostrophe before the h in the word happy, for example? Yeah, absolutely. So if you looked up the word happy in the dictionary, you would definitely see that apostrophe because the first syllable is stressed. So yeah, it should start with the apostrophe and then the transcription, happy. Yeah, good. See, that apostrophe is so useful. All right, nice. So, good questions. Nice. You are all definitely thinking along the right lines. We still have some time left. We still have 10 minutes. So I really want you to dig deep. I don't want you to leave this webinar with any doubts about the IPA chart. Okay, so dig deep. There is no question too big or too small. Okay, pop it in the chat box and we can definitely discuss it. Okay. So, Hanu, let's revisit your comment. You said that you saw some mistakes in the first slide. So let's go back and have a look. Hanu, are you talking about the monophthong vowels slide? If you could just clarify exactly what slide we want to look at. If it's the monophthongs, yeah, we can run back there and look. But just, yeah, okay. Yes. All right, let's have a look. Let's see if my proofreading failed me. Okay, so let's make it nice and big. Okay, we have E, I, U, E, O, A, O. Okay, so Hanu, I'm not seeing the mistakes. They're not jumping out at me. Can you pop into the chat box what you think the mistakes are? Okay, so and car. O, yeah. Okay, so let's look at saw. So the section of the word represented by the AW is aw, saw. And the sound AR here, ah. So I would not see these as mistakes, honestly. Saw and ka, or as I would say, saw and car. So yeah, think about the King of England. He would spell it C-A-R with an R. He just wouldn't pronounce the R. But I would. Okay, so I am not seeing the mistake, but please pop in what you think it is and we can discuss it. All right, and honey, W and R or W and are consonants, aren't they? Yes, they are absolutely classed as consonant sounds. All right, so Felice, or Felice, I'm so sorry, I can't decide if I want to pronounce it Felice or the Italian way. So what is the schwa sound again? So we were just looking at our monophthongs, and the schwa sound is right there. It's like the upside down E on the second sound on the second row. So a schwa is basically an unstressed vowel sound. Okay, so if you think about the word ago, yeah, ago, the second syllable, the go, is stressed, right? Ago. So the first syllable is a vowel, but it's just like yeah, it's a throwaway It's not strong, okay? It's a very, very weak, unstressed vowel sound. It's actually one of the most, if not the most common sound in the English language, okay? Think about, for example, if you're saying, I can do it, okay? I can do it. I would never say it like this in real life. In real life, I would say, I can do it. Yeah, I can do it. So I can becomes I can, because we're not stressing the word can. Yeah, I can do it. Okay. Can becomes can with the schwa. Because it's unstressed, we're saying it really quickly to get to the other main words in the sentence. So just think schwa, unstressed vowel sound. All right. And once you start listening out for it, it is literally everywhere. There are dozens of them in every sentence. Well, okay, that's a slight exaggeration, but there are lots of them in every sentence we say. You may not know you're using it, but you are. And once you focus on it, you'll see. All right, does that make sense, Felice? Hopefully so. If not, you can ask again. All right, so Draculina, you had a question. Let's go back and see it. So teaching online, where do you think it would be good to use? The IPA chart? Anywhere you would use it in a real classroom, Draculina, you can totally use it in online teaching, just as you would in the classroom. You can have a graphic of the IPA chart that you can pull up at a moment's notice. You can use like the pointer or the highlight function in your online lesson to show what sound you're talking about. I know when I was teaching online, just before I started teaching, I made flashcards of all of the sounds. Like I drew the symbols myself in nice, thick black marker, so that, I could just like show them to the students up to the screen like this, to isolate the particular sounds. You can use it. You can use the IPA just as you would in a face-to-face classroom. Use it as appropriate. As you need to address the sound, bring it out. Okay, just as we talked about in our example with g. Okay, but yeah, you can definitely still use it, I promise. I loved my flashcards, like each flashcard had a sound. And I loved the little highlight tool in my online platform where, like, it looks like a little wand and it's got a yellow light and you can just hover it over the symbol that you are talking about. But yeah, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of it. Use it as appropriate. Okay. So Felice, I like the Italian pronunciation as I am 100% Sicilian. Yes, something was drawing me towards Felice. I don't know why, Felice. I just felt Italian vibes. So good to know that my intuition was on point. So Lynn, how well do I need to know the IPA chart to teach English in my own country, South Africa? Well, Lynn, it's really good to be familiar with it. Okay. That's not to say that you need to know it off by heart or anything before you start teaching, because you totally don't. Like, as with everything else, you learn it by doing it. It's the same with grammar, right? Nobody knows everything about grammar before they start teaching. They learn it as they teach it, bit by bit, and you build your knowledge bit by bit. And it's exactly the same thing with the IPA. As I said, use it as appropriate, like use it when you need it. Like if there is a sound that comes up that your students can't make or they have trouble with, bring it up as needed. Don't just teach it for the sake of it, but use it as it is genuinely useful. And that's the way that you will build up your own knowledge of it. Okay, so, have the chart in the classroom and don't be afraid to refer to it as needed. All right. So Mar, there is this man who teaches IPA without talking. Oh, that's so fun. He mimes the sound. Have you seen it? It's helpful because it teaches where the tongue and lips go. Yes, that is an excellent point, Mar. So I know, Gloria, you were telling me that certain sounds did not exist in Arabic. And, this happens in all languages, right? So when you have to teach a sound from scratch, you really need to get into the mechanics of things, like this guy does, Mar. So like you will need to tell them, okay, the sound is b, b. So see your lips, put them together, b, put them out, b. Feel it here, feel it vibrating, b. So, you will need to like show your students how to make each sound. Like tell them what's happening here. Where's your tongue? Is your tongue at the top of your mouth? What are your teeth doing? Are they far apart? Is your tongue behind your teeth? Is your tongue between your teeth? Like you really need to get into the mechanics of it. Using the IPA, it can look really funny and it can feel really funny sometimes. But yeah, you really need to do that. And like I like to put my head up so, students can see where my tongue is and what my teeth are doing. And to an outsider, like it might look ridiculous, but yeah, these are the things you've got to do. So yes, definitely take inspiration from this guy who mimes the sound. Because yeah, students need to know what's your tongue doing, what are your teeth doing, what are your lips doing, and what can you feel. Okay. So yes, thank you, Mart. I meant to mention that previously. So thank you for the reminder. Okay, and Felice, what is the symbol for schwa? So let's see. So see on the second line, Felice, it's the second symbol on the second line. It looks like an upside down E. That is the schwa. Okay. So, yes. All right. So, everybody, would you look at the time? Our hour is up. That was the fastest hour ever. Thank you so much for all of your amazing questions. You are all asking the right questions, okay? It shows me that you are really thinking about this as you need to. And yeah, hopefully I've been able to shed some light on the mysterious IPA. I promise you, you will learn to love it. It is genuinely the most useful thing, the most useful tool when it comes to teaching pronunciation effectively. So just before we all go about our way to continue our Saturday, I'd like you to take just one more minute to please fill in a survey on this webinar. We always want to give you the topics that you want and find useful. So, please take one more moment out of your time to fill in our very quick survey. You can scan the QR code if you want, or I'm going to pop the link into the chat box so you can get there faster. Unfortunately, it is the longest link in the whole world. Okay, I think I've put it in there correctly. Okay. And a reminder that all of our webinars are on the TEFL Academy YouTube channel, going back years and years. This one will be posted in a couple of days for you to refer back to as needed. Also a reminder that I host a podcast with one of my colleagues where we talk about all things TEFL. You may also have met Luan on other editions of this webinar. So Luan and I have a podcast called TEFL Unlocked, and every week we discuss some different topic of teaching, some different aspect. So please find us on Spotify or Apple iTunes, or you will find a link to the podcast on your TEFL Academy dashboard. So thank you so much for coming along, everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope I get to see you all again soon. All right, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Goodbye.